away.
Welcome to the Labor Day edition of the Startup Show. This is John Wren. Today we're with Valerie Connolly, who is an entrepreneur. She is a publisher. She is a businesswoman extraordinaire and a songwriter and singer. She is a phenomenal singer. And we're going to send you to a site where you can hear how she sounds, but first we're going to talk with her and find out how she got started. This is John Wren. We're here each Monday from 5 to 6 for the Startup Show. We bring people on the show to talk about how they got started. And we are part of the Small Business Chamber of Commerce. We try to make small more beautiful, cooperating with local chambers across the country, around the world, to try to help them provide more real help to startups and very small businesses. We have a website, and you can see it there on the screen, smallbizchamber.org. And we have the startup line. You can call us anytime, 24/7, and ask us for help as you get started. So 303-861-1447. You can see it on the screen there. 303-861-1447. If you call right now, you'll get a recorder. I try to pick up the phone myself, 9:30 to 11 Mountain Time, Monday through Friday. So that's a good time to reach me, and I'll give you the benefit of my thinking. So I've been doing this for nearly 20 years. 5280 Magazine says we've infused Denver with an entrepreneurial spirit. Now we're trying to do the same with other communities. If you'd like to help your community, give us a call and we'll talk with you about how we could help you get a startup workshop going, patterned on after what we've done for 20 years. We now call it the Idea Startup Workshop. It's based on a 4-step business creativity model, IDEA, and we tell people about that. It's meant to be a one-time startup workshop. You come, hopefully get inspired, and then go get started. Just Start is the book we recommend now, Harvard Business Review Press. It's got lots of good information about how successful businesses actually get started. So if you'd like to know more about it, come to an Idea Startup Workshop. They're free. We just ask you to bring your brain for the brainstorming because you'll help other people too. For more, visit our website or give us a call on the startup line, 303-861-1447. Well, Valerie Green went to Cornell College. I know because I was there. And all of us fell in love with Val when she got up in the freshman show. And I knew her for a couple of years while I was there at Cornell and have reconnected with her recently. She's been out to Denver and has shared her startup experience at the Idea Cafe here in Denver. And we're really privileged to have her with us today, partly because she's kicking off a new Facebook page. So we're going to try to see how many likes we can get on her Facebook page over the next week or so. Val, I'm really glad you're here with us today.
Well, thanks, John. It's always a pleasure to talk with you and just have fun.
So let's start out from sort of the inside out. Let's start with the most current startup you've got, which is your Facebook page. How did you, and also the new platform for your music, which sounds incredible. You've always sounded good, but it just seems to sound extra good on what you're doing now. Tell us about that.
I think it's a little bit like a good wine gets better with age.
There you are.
Well, I've been involved in many entrepreneurial things ever since the first proverbial lemonade stand back when I was about 5. I discovered people would give me money if I had something they wanted. So that was kind of cool, even as a young child. So this most recent one is I've always been a musician. I've always been a songwriter. I've always been a singer. But I had children and I had to feed them. So I've been in and out of the music world probably 4 or 5 different times. And I taught French, and I had a wonderful career as a teacher. A lot of good traveling involved, great students no matter where I was teaching. But the entrepreneurial thing was always there. And I've had, let's see now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 businesses. And Nightingale Media is the growth from my publishing business, but I now not only publish books for people all over the world, but I publish music for myself. At this point, I'm not ready to do everyone else too. But so my book publishing business, which is now 10 years old, and that's like ancient in the publishing world, is also a platform for my music. And so I've decided to push it. And this year, I was encouraged by a number of people in my area and across the nation who know me, said, Valerie, you've got to put your music in a story. So I wrote a little one-act play called Her Story, and now I'm being pushed to write Act 2. So I will be combining it all. But it's really that I truly believe any one American woman's story has connectivity and similarity to any other American woman's story. And it's true for men too, but I can only speak from a woman's view because I'm a woman. I can guess at what men think, but I can't really know. So this is all about bringing the music, which has always been from a strong female perspective, out into the sunlight. And for some reason, I mean, if I tell you my age, people won't believe it. When you listen to the voice, I guess maybe not using it 24/7 has been a good thing because it's stronger and better now than it has ever been.
It really is. It's just fantastic. And
it's like, oh, I brought it out and dusted it off, and now it's working. You know, it's great.
Well, I got, I guess, an email from you to take a look at your Facebook page, and I did last night, and you kept me up way too late because I listened to all the music. It sounded so good.
Oh, my.
How did you've done all these things, and now the Facebook page and this new platform, where did that come from? How did that come about?
Well, I decided that 2013 was going to be the year that I would do all the things I never did before. I was going to reach out as far as I could go with the music. And I've been writing, well, last year I wrote 40 songs. So a song every week and a half, or sometimes 2 in a week, and then I skip a week or something. But I've been very prolific. And you know, life is never steady, so it gives me lots of fodder. There's a lot to talk about, and I somehow find it easiest to talk about things in music. And so this was the year I decided to get really organized, and I've been an ASCAP member, which is one of the two, BMI is the other, the two big organizations that help artists collect money if they ever get any play on airplay. I've been with them since 1987, and they, you know, my whole portfolio is there. So I decided to get it all updated, and I have, and of course with all the copyright work, I have 55 songs in my ASCAP file right now, and on Reverb Nation, which is this wonderful, wonderful site that allows you to push your music out in a very effective manner. I've only got some of them up. I've only got like 14 or 15 songs up. So I have a lot more to put up there. But on my website, ValerieConnolly.com, you can hear absolutely everything I've written, including children's songs and instrumentals, and then all the life lesson type songs that are kind of the bulk of what I do. But I've never had so much fun working with technology. Usually it's been a bear, you know, kind of difficult. But they have made all of this so easily interconnected that if I do something on the Reverb Nation site, it all pops out to all the media, networking media sites that there are, like Facebook and Twitter and all of that. And so I don't have to sit there and do it all. It just does it for me. It's marvelous.
Yeah, the Reverb Nation is an incredible tool. I listened last night. I was liking songs. I asked you a question online and actually got back an answer about, was Cornell College your first performance, which of course it wasn't,
Mm.
which we could all tell you were so good, and you still are, and you've just kept getting better. I think the announcement I put out said, "Watch for her soon on Letterman and Leno." I just really believe you're going to be there. Especially, I've got a great idea for you. Why don't you write the late night television song or something like that? Because we've grown up watching
Oh, that's a great
Jay and Dave.
idea. I'll do that.
And you've written some patriotic songs that are just really, really touching. The song about 911. Now, we were trying to put it on Google Plus here, and the quality just doesn't come across. But if people go to your Facebook page or your website and they click through to the Reverb Nation, the quality that you hear directly from that is just out of sight. It's so, so good.
Well,
Now, I've got a question.
Let me just say something about the patriotic songs. I've made them into videos, and so those are up on YouTube as well.
Yes, yes. And they're really worth watching every 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
And although they really, I think, were driven out of 911, weren't they?
Well, the Forbidden Freedoms was about 4th of July, because I don't think in this world today we do enough to remember who we are as a country. And it just struck me that I needed to write. The song just came. I mean, it was not something I could stop. It just happened. The 911 is called We the People. And that one is about, how we're not giving up yet. We're not done yet. Doesn't matter. We the people, we're strong, and all that. So it's a very patriotic commentary. And I'm sort of loath to talk political things, but on the other hand, I was a Peace Corps volunteer, so I hung out on the far left, and I allowed myself to move as I got older and older. I'm more like a right-handed moderate. Some people would say I have libertarian tendencies, but it's rare, just once in a while. But all of that comes out in those two songs, and there's a lot more to say. Just an Old Hippie is a great little song, and it's a commentary about being who we are today. And it opened up the play. That was the first song in the play, and trying to explain who we are. So anyway, I'll stop talking. You talk.
Well, you're speaking to the women, but also to the generation that we're part of, the baby boom generation.
I don't think it's limited to women. I do think that there's plenty in what I have to say that reaches past gender and all of that. And our generation, have you noticed they market oldies to us? They want us to buy more of what we already have. We've already got all the stuff from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. What we need is someone writing for our day and time right now, and that's what I'm doing.
Well, and you are, and I put up a really interesting interview. I think it was from 60 Minutes, and they talked with Bob Dylan. I just put it up on my Facebook page a couple of days ago, and it's this really interesting interview with Dylan, and he talks about making music and being a poet, and as he sees it, not a prophet, that he did his music and then people drew from that what they would. And Blowing in the Wind, apparently he wrote that in like 20 minutes.
It can happen.
Willie Nelson has said he doesn't write the words, he just writes them down. Do you get that sense in the writing that you do, that there's something coming out that's supposed to come out?
Absolutely. I can't, without sounding hokey, it's almost mystical. When the idea gets in your head, and I hear music, I hear it in my head, and there will be a line or two that'll come that starts the poetry, the lyrics. And then it's just, oh, I got to do it. Nothing else happens until that is done. It's like that with the painting I do. It's like that when I'm writing. I'm writing my third novel right now called No Tomorrow, and it's kind of along the same line. There's this thing, I'm not sure what it is. I like to call it the muse, and that's kind of an old, tired way of doing it. But in my play, there is a character, and she's the muse, and she talks to me. And that's what happens. There's a conversation that goes on in your brain, and it just tells you what to do. It's pretty stunning. And when one sits down to write a song, for me in any case, it's not that I write the words and then I write the song. It's it all comes together. And then there's a lot of editing and working it over and all that happens. But for me, most of the time, the nugget will come together, both the melody and the words. Then I got to write it all down and do all that, the hard work. It's not a 10-minute product, but sometimes it can be. Sometimes it really can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes. The whole thing's there. It's really scary.
So what's one of your songs that came like that? Just in
Believe I Meant to Love You. It's at the top of the list on my Reverb Nation site. It really came bingo, just like that. And it was almost perfect. I had to tweak it a little. But once I have it, then I work it up and I get my little 8-track hard drive master thing going, and away we go. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I don't get a lot of sleep the nights this happens. It almost always happens at night, which is most disconcerting. But oh well.
And then you listen, and it sounds like there's a whole ensemble. But like Neil Diamond, that's all you.
It is
that's incredible to me that you could do all the tracks on the song yourself. It sounds like you've got 4 or 5 people at least, a backup singer, but that's all you.
That would be wonderful, but I don't, so I have to do it myself. That's the joy of being a pianist. I was trained as a classical pianist. In fact, that was my minor in music, was piano, and the major was vocal performance at Cornell. And I minored also in French, and I had a triple minor. It was crazy, but triple major, I mean. But the great thing is, technologically, the sounds that come from my keyboard are almost as good as the sounds you would get if you had a live orchestra. So I just punch in the voice I want to use, and I use my piano. And being a guitar player, I know how a guitar is played, and it's different from the way a piano is played. So you have to adjust the piano playing to sound like a guitar. You have to kind of strum the piano. It's kind of weird. And then the bass line and the strings and all that. It's just because I can play piano, and it's really helpful. I'm glad my mother made me practice.
Well, Neil Diamond does the same thing, and I've heard him talk, and he likes the control it gives him because
Absolutely.
He can make sure it's just like he wants it.
That's right. And I've stopped ever worrying that my ear or my view or my musical voice is somehow dated or somehow out of the mainstream. I really don't care. And I think that's why it will resonate and does resonate with so many. It even resonates with younger people, most amazingly. So.
Well, this burst of creativity that comes when you get the idea to write a song, compare that to what's happened with you in business. When you went into publishing, when you've done some of these other things, was it similar to that, or was it totally different for you?
I really and truly believe that if you have a good product or a great service, and you see that there are people who need your product or your service, there is a way to find them. Now, the internet has made that a lot easier, and in some ways much harder, because the old world, it was all about the personal FaceTime that you had with people, going to the Chamber of Commerce breakfasts or going to the business organization meetings at lunch and networking live with people. That was the way it used to be done. and still is in a local level. But now, I mean, my publishing business, 10 years old, that's like ancient in publishing terms. For well, I'm a medium-sized company. I've done about 150 books in 10 years, and that's about the right average. 15 a year is quite a lot, actually, but that's what I've been able to produce. And these are books that I publish for other people, and we do editing via the phone. If they live overseas, we do it via Skype. It's a wonderful ability that didn't exist at all, even in the beginning of my business. I couldn't do what I do today without the internet. And so having remained fairly technologically capable, I mean, I make my own websites, and that's, again, about control, being able to pop things up there right away. All of that is a gift, and I have good time doing it. It's fun. People say, how do you stay so busy? I said, well, didn't you like to play in the sandbox when you were a kid? That's what I do. I get up in the morning, I go play in my sandbox, is basically what it is. But business-wise, if you have the idea and the service, there are lots of people who will come to you.
Well, I want to talk with you more about that when we come back, and especially the very beginning of that enterprise. You know, were you publishing? How did you go from singing, teaching French, the other things, into having this business? How going back to the headwater of the Nile? So, but first, we do this each week. Small Business Chamber of Commerce, because we're hoping that local chambers pass the word and that people that are just starting tune us in. We're not in competition with local chambers. We're trying to cooperate in a way that can bring more good information to more startups. If we're successful, we believe we can actually have an impact on the unemployment rate. We've been doing face-to-face startup workshops here in Denver for nearly 20 years, and we know they're helpful. People come back, they say, hey, I was here 8 years ago, now it's time for something new, and they need another dose. It's not intended to be a replacement for anything that's out there. It's not a permanent addition to your calendar, but it's a place to go when you're at a turning point, you need to go in a new direction, starting a new career, a new project or a campaign, what most people call a pivot now if you're in the startup lingo mainstream. But if you're pivoting, it's a good place to go. Or if you're starting a brand new business, you've had an inspiration, you're getting underway, but we don't say, well, now come back next fall and take our 8-week class, because people scratching their entrepreneurial itch, the characteristic generally, now there are exceptions to this, but generally they want to take action now. The book we recommend now is published by Harvard Business Review Press. It is called Just Start. They have a good website, just-start.com. And I also have a little book on Amazon. If you Google John Wren, Daring Mighty Things, my little book comes up. It's 99 cents on Amazon. If you don't find it helpful, I'll give you $1 back. And we also have the startup line. Just give us a call. Monday through Friday, I try to pick up the phone on the first ring, 9:30 to 11. And we're also looking for volunteers to try to help us with those calls. We're moving towards having a board of directors, official bylaws. We're going to try to raise maybe a little bit of money to help us have a little bit better voice. But you can help right now in several different ways. One is cooperate with your local chamber to start an idea startup workshop. We'll help you with that. If you'll give me a call, I'll tell you what we can do for you. The other thing, we have something brand new that we'd really encourage you to participate in, especially if you're starting a new idea cafe, a new startup workshop, and that is our new Go+Groups. Go+Groups are groups of 3 that come together once a week to act as each other's sounding board, self-directed learning group. I facilitate the first meeting for you, and then I'll help you form a group of your own. And you set whatever goal you want for learning. It's based on adult self-directed learning theory. I've studied adult education at Regis University. I've been doing groups like this based on Ben Franklin's model we've called Franklin Circles for over 10 years. And Franklin was an incredible person. I think it was his best invention, how he had this insight into how people actually learn. So that's what we use. Wednesdays, we have a free orientation session limited to just 3 people. And if you'll go to our website, smallbizchamber.org, there's a link. It's a meetup.com group. If you want to go directly to that, it's meetup.com/small-biz-chamber, small-biz-chamber hyphenated. It's a meetup.com group, and it's free Wednesdays, 11:45 to 12:30 Mountain Time. If you think you might be interested at all, RSVP for this Wednesday or next Wednesday. If there is a waiting list, be sure to get on it. If there's enough interest, then we'll schedule a special session so you can get underway quicker. But we are the Small Business Chamber of Commerce. Got lots of good volunteers now, but we'd like your help too. We want to help you get started to create a good living for yourself. So we're here each Monday to talk with you about that. Today we're with Valerie Connolly. I have a hard time saying her name because I've always known her as Val Green, but you know, Val is a wonderful singer. I first met her at the watching her up on stage perform at the freshman talent show at Cornell College in the fall of 1965. That's been a while.
Oh, it's just an age ago.
Now, what'd you do right after Cornell?
I went in the Peace Corps. I spent 2 years living in West Africa, and it was a great experience. It informed my whole life. I'm glad I did that. Came back and got a job selling clothes for a while, and finally got into teaching again, and had a couple of kids and raised them and did all that, and married and divorced and all that. And but it's been a wonderful life, and I've rubbed elbows with all kinds of great people, and it's just been a kick. I've just really, by and large, had a big, fun time being me. So.
And you stay in touch with Cornell, it sounds like. You just travel around?
Yeah, I haven't been back for a reunion for a while, but some of my girlfriends from that time, we're still friends. We were laughing this last end of July, early August, when we got together up at northern Wisconsin on a lake, and we were laughing that it's been 48 years that we've known each other. I mean, that's pretty astounding. And we've just kept in touch, and we see each other every couple of years, or sometimes every year now, because we're getting there. It's fun.
Well, take us back to the very beginning of Nightingale Publishing. You published these 150 books over a 10-year period. Take us back to that very first book. What were you doing? When did the light bulb come on? How did you get that first book to the printer?
Well, I started Nightingale as a business so I could publish my own books. And one of the great misconceptions, and it's kind of an important distinction, a self-published book means that the author started a publishing company just for the purpose of publishing their own books. Benjamin Franklin was one of the first self-publishers. If you go to one of the website type publishing houses that says you're a self-publisher if you let us make your book, you're not a self-publisher. You have to own the ISBN number. You have to be responsible for all the creation of the book. You have to be responsible for finding its distribution, and it's all of that. So I understood the concept, and I decided to go ahead and start my own business in, an empty bedroom in my house. That's what I did. The internet was just coming along. It was, it was 2003 when I wrote my first novel and published it in 2004. Well, it was published in 2003, but it took till it went over the January thing. So, but anyway, I decided the best way was to go out and talk about the book. And ironically, one of the greatest places to be an author is in a library. So I started talking in small groups to people in libraries. And they all have writers' groups in the area and that kind of thing. So I plumbed the depths of that. And as I was talking about what I had done, there were people who said, but I don't know how to do the things you know how to do. how can I get my book laid out? I don't have the technological savvy that you have. And I said, well, ding dong, light bulb went on, and I said, I could help you. And so I started publishing books for other people, and it didn't allow me to write as many books as I would have written, but I'm on my third novel, which is now my sixth book, I guess. So somewhere in there I've been able to dabble back in the writing quite a bit. But it's been a wonderful thing to facilitate the dreams that other people have. Now, a publisher makes the product. The publisher is responsible for designing and developing and editing and all of the things that have to go into a book. I work with Ingram as my distributor, which is the biggest distributor, and they're here in Tennessee, as well as Lightning Source, which was they were the first to do the on-demand printing, the fast stuff. They're the best in the world, and they distribute to the entire globe. And our books are available in 6 global markets. They can be printed, or you can buy them online everywhere. Plus, now, of course, the big revolution was the ebook, and I went kicking and screaming into the ebook world. But now our books are, when the authors choose to do it, the books are distributed to 60, they call them channels. The iPad, the Kindle, the Nook, the Kobo are ones that we all know here. But there are 56 more on the whole globe, and ours go out to all of them. So it's truly, the world has become quite small, and it's a beautiful thing. It's also just like putting a piece of bread on the water and hoping a duck will take a bite. I mean, it's very hard to reach out, which is why this Reverb Nation thing for music is phenomenal. It's just a great way to let people know. And authors, there are ways to do that very same thing. If you develop a blog and you have your Facebook and you have your Twitter and you have a nice little website and you make an effort to get out on all the internet radio stations, there's a zillion of them. And you may be talking to 5 people, you may be talking to 50 or 500 or 5,000. You never know how many people you're reaching. But you reach them, and you couldn't possibly reach them any other way. So you have to be very proactive, and you have to think of your book or your song or your play or your painting as a business. And it is. So.
Well, we're talking with Valerie Connolly. She does think of her music as a business. She is a singer, a songwriter. She's just put up a new Facebook page. And now, where did the idea for the Facebook page itself come from? You did the Reverb Nation. Is that something they suggest?
Oh yeah, they really want you to do all that. And I had a Twitter account that I'd never gone to. I set it up and then I'd never tweet. I mean, I'm a busy gal. I have a hard time sitting down and tweeting about what I had for breakfast.
Right.
I just don't care. And so that's kind of an issue. But I find that the way they do it is they just push it out there for you. And oh boy, that is great. I love it. So.
Well, there are all these tools. We have these, it's like a garage full of tools, and it's hard to know how to use them all. You're a new Google Plus user as of today, right? Now, I thought we'd maybe talk a little bit about that, your experience learning Google Plus to be able to be on this show. I keep toying with the idea that, I don't know, maybe there's an easier way to do this. On the other hand, it seems that this is growing quickly and people enjoy learning about it. Did you enjoy the experience of learning about Google Plus, or what do you think now that we've been using it for a while here?
Well, it's easy. If you're set up, I mean, I have a Logitech camera that sits there and never does anything, and so it's great to have the little camera do something. And now that I've had this experience, I think I might find myself using it as a teaching tool or a reaching out kind of tool somehow myself. But the great thing about all of it is it's pretty intuitive, and if you are not afraid of a computer and you're willing to noodle about on it and punch a button and see what happens, you can figure it out. It's not rocket science. It's actually very intuitive, and they all have a similarity. So that's kind of cool.
I have a little pop-up. It tells me that it looks like 58 people are watching us right now, which is huge for internet.
I'm so happy you're all here. Great to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for watching. And we're also putting this up on our YouTube channel for the Small Business Chamber of Commerce. And Val, you've agreed to come there all week long and answer people's questions about the music business, about publishing, about startup. And we really appreciate you doing that. So hopefully this has a life even beyond what we're being able to enjoy right now with you. So,
well, I'm very happy to do that. It'll be a pleasure.
Now, did you inherit this startup ability? Was your family entrepreneurial, musical, creative as you are, or is this just a gift directly to you from the muse, as you say?
From the cosmos. Well, my father worked for Illinois Bell, and then it became AT&T. But he was very integral to their business. He did a lot of work nationally, developing rate structures and things. It sounds boring as all get out, but he was using computers in the 50s when they were just really, you know, nothing by comparison to today. But it helped him to figure out whatever he had to figure out. My mother was very creative. I think she should have been out of the house doing a lot more. She was quite artistic and all of that. And I don't know. I like to think I probably lived 5 or 6 other lifetimes, and it all culminates here. That all came through with whatever. I don't know. But nobody taught me. I just did it. And I think that's the key to being an entrepreneur. There's logic to it. You got to charge a fair rate. You got to produce something that's worth listening to, or worth learning, or worth reading, or worth whatever it is you're doing. You're making widgets. They got to be the best widget out there. But the doing of that, well, it's like the Chinese proverb. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And that is so true, and it is only a step at a time. But you're gathering information, and you get wiser, and you make mistakes, and you learn from them, hopefully, and you keep going. And it ends up being, I'm always astonished about it. It's always a shock to me that it works if you just keep taking the next step and not being afraid to fail. You have to be afraid to fail, because you will, and then you just do it again.
You know, there was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal. It was April 1st, which is National Poetry Day. And this column in the Wall Street Journal made the case that academic poetry classes are killing poetry, that it makes people analytical. They don't experience the emotion of the poem. They feel like they need to write a paper for academic consumption, and so for most people, they go into a class like that and say, you know, this is not something I like. And now that may or may not be true as far as poetry concerned, but it seems to me that same thing is happening with entrepreneurship. When I was in graduate business school, it was before Inc. magazine, really nothing was taught about startup. And now it is heavily taught. It's a real hot topic, and it seems the more that we teach about startup and entrepreneurship, the less people actually get started with new businesses. And you didn't study entrepreneurship, it doesn't sound like.
Not at all. Not at all. And my total outlay for the beginning of my company was $800. That's all I spent. I had to have ISBN numbers, and I had to have a decent computer and a good internet line, and that was it. And from that point forward, it was all about my ability to take somebody's idea and make it real. And I was good at making my own ideas real, so it was pretty simple to just flip that to somebody else's idea and help them make it better and make it real. I don't know how to describe it any other way. But nobody taught me how to do that.
You know, my friend Amar Bahidi has sent students out for years to talk to the founders of successful companies, and he traces back the beginning of the businesses through these student interviews. And you can argue with this, sometimes self-reporting is not the most accurate, but he trains his students, the students go out, it's a face-to-face interview. I think this has the highest possible level of credibility, except if you're just with an out-and-out liar. Although it is changing, Bahiti says that he does get these people in front of his class and he'll say, how did you start? And they'll say, well, you need to do a lot of market research, a lot of careful planning. And Bahiti will say, well, is that how you actually started? Well, no, but that's really would have been much better if I would have done it that way. But his student interviews find out that uniformly a successful entrepreneur just does not start the way that the SBA says that you should start, with careful market research, with careful formal written planning. Now, of course, it's not random action. You're not just, along the way, it's a hunch. You get confident enough in your abilities that you're willing to take a risk and see what happens. And it sounds like that's very much what you've done.
I would say to that, if I had been worried about writing my perfect business plan, I would still be writing my perfect business plan. And I wouldn't have done a darn thing. Because it isn't about the business plan. It's about producing the product, whatever it is, or the service. And there's an intuitive thing to that you cannot write down on a piece of paper. I don't know why. I mean, you can say, okay, I'm going to charge blah 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 money for this job or this service or this thing. I was charging much less than I do today, and as I increased my services, I had to increase my cost to the client. And sure enough, I kept getting more and more people. That was mind-boggling to me. But the quality of the work, my reputation as a publisher is, it's almost perfect. I have authors who have found one typo in a book. And I've worked with authors who, and I hate typos, even one, but they're inevitable because we're human and we're not perfect. But in the editing process on how to write and all of that, I have such a backlog in language, both English and French, so there's a tremendous understanding I can bring to that. And it's unique. Most editors went to school to learn how to edit. I lived a life of teaching language and writing and promoting and communicating. So it's, I don't know, I guess I'm uniquely qualified to do the job I created for myself. And I love that my commute is between the coffee pot and the computer. I don't have to go anywhere.
Valerie Connolly, she is a Renaissance woman. She is a business person. She is a songwriter. She's a musician. She's a publisher. Are you still accepting publishing clients?
Sure. Sure.
If people want to get in touch with you, what do they do?
They go to, they can go to valerieconnelly.com. There's a little rotator there that will send them to Nightingale Publishing. NightingalePublishing.com. It's all one word. Well, Nightingale Publishing is one word. Nightingale has an E in the middle, not an I. It is spelled in the Germanic, Scandinavian way, not in the English way, because in Illinois there is another publishing company called Nightingale Conant, and Nightingale Conant is hugely well known, but it's with the English spelling, so I had to change it to a Germanic spelling. And as a little side humorous thing, I had someone send me an email saying, I wouldn't publish with you because you don't even know how to spell your own name. And then I shot back an email with all of the great works of literature and music that use the Germanic and Scandinavian spelling of the name Nightingale. So.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience with us here today. I hope we get you to Red Rocks in Denver one of these days to do a concert.
Oh, what a heavenly thing that would be. I would love it. Fill it up with all the boomers in Denver and we'd be ready to go.
And you will continue the conversation online at our YouTube channel for the Small Business Chamber of Commerce. I'll be posting a link at the end of this video. I'll go back through and put titles up. So as soon as I've done that, I'll email it to you. And Valerie, it's really great reconnecting with you, and best wishes, and I can hardly wait to see you on the David Letterman show.
I love it. I got to work fast though. Leno's going to retire in the beginning of 14, so
You'd be the perfect last guest. Last song.
I could sing him a great song the way Bette Midler did for Johnny Carson. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
How about that? The last song of the Tonight Show.
Wow. Oh, I would love that.
Us old hippies have to stick together.
You betcha we do. And I just would say to everybody, if you have a good idea, just do it. I steal Nike's thing all the time. Just do it. Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Val.
Thank you. It was